And Shantytown was down where the elementary school is. I remember being there, and people just came there to work in that mill and McCullough Mines, and they had pretty cheap housing, and that was Shantytown. That's where they lived. Ball playing was a serious thing. Started in Princeville for 7 years. It was an extreme thing. What I said made it pretty extreme was we developed these players, and my pitchers pitched 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The only time they didn't pitch was had a game. And I had this one pitcher, pitched 7 years and never lost a game. Struck out 21 batters a game. He averaged a little over 15 strikeouts per game. That was the record. I thought that was a pretty extreme. Down at the tavern there one night, they got into a little squabble and went out into the street, and the constable, he pulled out his gun, shot him between the eyes, and killed him, George Schroyer. But during the war, I thought this was kind of important. During the war, it was a complete, everybody assisted to get that war over. The government opened up the school shop for any farmer to bring his machinery in and work on it. Charlie Miller opened the shop, and welding, wagon beds, and that kind of stuff. And then also, we picked elderberries that the government bought and made grape jelly for the war, and made milkweed pods for life jackets. Dad was in the hospital 16 weeks trying to get his eyes healed up because of that acid burn, pulled his teeth. 16 weeks he come home. But while he was there, he was trying to figure out how he going to make a living for his family. So he started all these ideas. The first thing he thought of was, has all this land, he'd lease it out to the other farmers. They would pay a third of the crop to use his land. Half for the hay, a third for grain. So he took a third of corn, took a third of buckwheat, third of oats. He took the buckwheat down to Aubrey Custer and traded it for flour, plus he got enough money to buy something else. And he took the rest of the grain and traded it, saved enough corn to raise a couple hogs, got enough out of the buckwheat to buy pigs, and got started and raised a calf. This was a bad story. He raised that calf up to be a cow, and that cow was producing milk for us, and butter and cheese, but he got greedy, he got anxious, he wanted to start farming the ground so he got the whole crop, so he bought a horse. The horse wasn't any good, so he traded it for a mule. It wasn't any good either, so he gave the mule away, started back ground zero. Well, we lived in that little one-room house, actually just a milk house, and he wanted to build a room onto it, so Lek Teets told him he could have a chicken house, he could have the lumber out if he tore it down. So that's 2 miles over the hill. So he tore the chicken house down, and he stacked the lumber on the fence and on a barrel and let a hole up through the middle of it, tied it together, and he'd get under that load of lumber and bring it 2 miles over here to the farm. My job was to lead him. Well, come the West Virginia line, there's some old pole bars there. There's a pole laying there. He tripped over that pole and fell down with that load of lumber on his back. He had a hard time of getting out from under it. He did. He said, "You cut a switch." And I did. And he used that on my rear end. Next time I come to a pole, step over the pole. That's how you learn. But he carried the lumber over, and to build that room, it didn't have enough lumber. So he bought some lumber off of Ward Sisler. Emory Friend hauled it for him, and Dad asked him how much he owed him for hauling lumber. Emory said, "If you ever get so you can work and pay for it, okay. If you don't, forget about it." 10 years later, we plowed Emory's garden. How much? Emory said, "Dad said you already paid me to haul the lumber." He never forgot anything. He tried to treat people right, or a little better than right. And he started this roping business, Christmas decorations. He made a machine, that's a pipe, that you run the binder twine through, and we'd lay a piece of evergreen on that, and then that machine would wrap and make this roping to decorate streets. Had to have the binder twine in the middle for strength. And during the 30 years, working 6 weeks out of the year, we made that roping. He made over 800 miles of it, enough to reach from here to Chicago. He also got in contact with the Curvin Company in New York and got orders for log moss. We went into the woods and picked moss off of logs, brought it home, dried it, and bagged it. And when we got enough for a railroad carload, we'd ship a carload to New York. And that's how he made his living, mostly, in that pine roping and that moss. And then, as soon as I got to be 12 years old, I started a construction company. And so we expanded in the building. And I was working for Leslie Savage. He had me driving truck as soon as I was 16. Got my license at 15, but had me driving truck, driving the school bus when I was 16. And I told him I wanted to get in more into professional trade. I wanted to be a mason or a carpenter. So he took me off the truck and put me into laying blocks. Well, the first day got me a board and laid on the mortar box, bought me a trowel down at Fox's, started stringing mortar till I got pretty good at it. Then I jumped up on the scaffold and strung mortar for the masons. Got pretty good at it, so they put me to laying blocks pretty quick. And then I started a construction company of my own. And I remember one job I did was Action Hardware at Accident, Maryland. Dad mixed the mud and laid the blocks. I laid 648 blocks that day. I know because that's the most blocks I ever laid in my life. Dad mixed the mud, put the blocks on the scaffold. This is a blind man. I never hollered mud once. I never hollered blocks once. They were there. I got the wall done. I said, Pap, I need 3 blocks to finish this wall. He said, you use the 3 under your mud board, you'll have enough. He could figure. He had the pine business, the roping business. He kept all the records in his head. He knew how everything cost. He knew what everything was. When we were cutting mine posts, when we loaded them out at the landing, come up one short, go find it. We cut it, I know it. So we had to, in the same way in Pittsburgh, you go down the street, the second red light, turn right. He told us where to deliver everything. And I believe he remembered everything. No one had a car. Every Saturday, Charlie would, 8 o'clock, drive his truck to Friendsville, pick up anybody wanted to ride, give them 2 hours to get the groceries, and bring them back home. One day, they had a stop to make at the last stop was Jenkins Tavern. Pick up a couple guys. Dad and Charlie went in there, and this one guy, Barnes, told Dad that he was a Golden Glove boxing champion. And Dad said, that's good. And he come back a little later, a couple minutes later, he hit Dad on the shoulder, like, see how tough you are. Pap brought a roundhouse right up against the side of his head and busted his ear, knocked him over against the radiator, busted his ear on the other side. He was there on his knees, blood running, dripping off his chin. Dad was helping him up. Are you learning yet? And some old guy said, you mean you're a Golden Glove boxer and let that old blind man whip you? Now that's a story Charlie Frazee told me. It's always been my idea to not stay with the crowd. Don't stay with the run of the mill. Don't grow sweet corn because there's 100 other people growing sweet corn. But get into something that's non-traditional, might be hard to grow, but you can come up with a profit. Most people won't fool with it because it's unpredictable, hard to grow. The number one product that you could make money off of would be growing weed. But since it hasn't quite become legal yet, and I hope never does, you grow ginseng. And I don't care how, you're going to have to really work at it. You're going to have to do special, but you can make a big profit. And the mushrooms are a good profit, but you need to get into something that's non-traditional to make the money. I would recommend, if you're going to be the run-of-the-mill, if you're going to compete with the Amish on growing vegetables, you're going to have to live like the Amish. You're going to have to squeeze. You're not going to make a big bunch of money. You can live off the land. But if you could get a government job, you'd make 50 times as much as you will off that crop. I say stay with the non-traditional crops, whatever it might be, whatever no one else is doing, and you have a better chance of making money.